Hey, Walt here from StogieReview.com with another video cigar review. This isn't actually going to be a full-blown video. I'm just doing a short ashes. I want to talk a little bit about a cigar that we've done in the past. However, I haven't seen or heard from this cigar at all in, I don't know, a couple of years. The last time I had one of these was actually when Jerry Bryan and I went to, I believe it was, I guess it was New Orleans, the second year at New Orleans for IPCPR. So it's been a couple of years since I've had one of these. It is the Los Blancos 9. But before I talk about this cigar, I want to give you a little bit of an update. A couple of weeks ago, probably like 2.5 weeks ago, I did a bit of an update video on sort of the state of Stogie Review and the state of my schedule. And, you know, since that time, you're probably wondering, where the hell have you been? You said you were going to be back. Your schedule was going to be back to normal for a little while. And, you know, you were looking forward to getting back into reviews. Well, I hit a little bit of a hiccup. Actually, a little bit of a hiccup hit me, but a couple of weeks ago I did that update video, and one of the things I mentioned was that my wife was taking night classes, and that's one of the reasons why I really can't pull myself away and do, you know, can't do a variety of things in the evening because I'm watching my daughter. And there was going to be some free time when my wife was finished this semester's classes. She's got a bit of a lull. The classes that she needs to take next aren't available this semester. They're available next. So I've got a couple of months of free time in there, or a couple of months where I should have a wide open schedule once again. But on Mother's Day, my wife and I, we had a really busy schedule. My wife left the house early to visit her mother and sister because they were greeters or something at church, and I hung back, and I was going to meet her later on. And that's what we wound up doing. We took separate cars, we met up, we were hanging out for a little while, and then when we left to come back home, again we were in separate cars because we drove separate. So my wife and my daughter head home. I head home as well. My wife took the highway. I took the back roads, if you want to even call them that. It's less of a bypass and more of just a two-lane highway. And on the way home, I had a guy pull out in front of me, and I hit him, totaled my car, and it really sucked. There was, I was approaching a green light, and there was a guy in opposing traffic. Actually, there were two of them. There was like an SUV, and behind the SUV was a pickup truck. And as I'm approaching the intersection, I have a green light. The SUV in front made a left and cut across my lane. He had enough time. I pumped my brakes a little bit, slowed down. You know, it wasn't a big deal. There was a lot of time for him to get through. The pickup truck behind him, I guess, tried to sort of piggyback in through and make a left as well. Only there wasn't enough time for him to make the left and me to get past. So when he started making the left, I guess he saw me, panicked, and stopped. And by that point, all I could do was just slide into him. I ended up totaling my car, got a trip to the hospital out of it, and was home, I don't know, a couple of hours after going to the hospital. Wasn't a really big deal. Banged up and bruised, but my car was totaled, and I spent a week dealing with constant phone calls. You know, insurance company, the hospital billing department, the ambulance billing department, my insurance company, the other driver's insurance company. You know, I had to go get stuff out of my car because I was taken away from the scene by ambulance. I didn't have my license, I didn't have my insurance, my registration. All that stuff was somewhere with my car. I didn't know where they towed it. But and to boot, I didn't even know what the accident report said because I didn't have a copy of it, and it was just a mess. Finally, I was able to track down my car. I had to go to the police station, pick up my stuff, and then kind of work from there. It took me a week of just non-stop phone calls to get any traction with any of this. The other insurance company accepted 100% liability because there was just nothing I could do. The guy pulled out in front of me. And then I spent another week car shopping, and that's been an absolute mess. So finally, here we are. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks since the accident. I just purchased a car this morning, so now everything should be back to normal, I hope. And, you know, hopefully nothing else goes wrong, but it's looking like things should be, you know, smooth sailing from here on out. I've got pretty much everything taken care of, and my wife is home at nights now, so here we are with cigar reviews again. And again, I'm doing the Los Blancos 9. So why am I doing a short ashes review on this particular cigar? I mentioned that I haven't heard from it or seen it in months, or in years actually. And one of the reasons is because Los Blancos really isn't, I shouldn't say it isn't available in the area. It isn't available at the cigar shops that I go to, or it hasn't been available in the cigar shops that I go to. There are two shops relatively close that carry the line, but I really don't go there. One shop is dead, and the other shop is just not really my thing, so I don't really go. And one of the shops that I don't get to nearly enough is Sir Stogie's down in Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania. Started carrying the Los Blancos Premier line. I've never really liked the Premier line. I like the Primos. It's actually I think it's a bundle brand below the Premier line. I think that's better than the more premium stuff. But I really loved the 9 when I tried it at the trade show. I was able to get a couple of them. I really enjoyed them, and then I sort of forgot about them because they weren't available. And every time I went to Sir Stogie's, I was just walking past the Los Blancos stuff because, well, I don't really like any of the stuff that he's carrying. He's carrying the Premier line, and I like the 9. So I got to talking to him. I was telling him, you know, how much I like the 9. And, you know, I'd really like to see him bring it in. So finally, he brings it in. He did an event with David Blanco recently. However, you know, because of this whole mess that was going on with my car being totaled, I wasn't able to get down there and check out the event. Actually, I think the event was the day before or something like that. But busy weekend, I wasn't able to get down there and see David Blanco. It's been quite a while. And from what I understand, David Blanco brought a bunch of 9s because they were back ordered or something, and now Sir Stogie's has got them. So I bought a handful while I was there yesterday or something, and I can't wait to smoke them. Actually, I seem to remember this cigar being around the $9 to $10 price point, and you know, I thought it was a fair price to pay for the cigar. However, these were marked like $6 and some odd cents. The band looks a little bit different than the original. It doesn't have the secondary band below it. It's one little more stylized band, but for $6 something, I grabbed a couple, and I have a feeling I'm going to smoke through them relatively quickly and wind up going back down there for some more. Hopefully they're not on back order, and once he runs out, hopefully there's not a giant delay till he can get them again, but I'm kind of spoiling the review at this point. So I'm going to read direct from Brian's review, since he has a pretty good write-up. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to link to Brian's review to get a write-up on the cigar, since this is a short ashes review, which has been running really long because it's been a while since I've done this. I'm sort of running off at the mouth with the camera running. I realize I'm doing that, but it's my review. I can do what I want, I guess. So the cigar, it's always been a more powerful cigar. It has, you know, it was always billed as something with big, bold flavors, and it's got just that. Nice, big, bold flavors. It's not over the top. You know, I'm not feeling overwhelmed. It's still really, really early. I'm less than half an inch into the cigar. It's smoking really well. I'm getting a lot of smoke, a lot of texture. It's coming through the sinuses really easy. It feels nice and dense across the palate. Coats the palate really well. It's got a little bit of a peppery tone through the sinus. Across the palate, it has kind of like a savory sort of flavor, a little bit of salty, a little bit of meaty kind of a thing going on. It sounds strange coming out of a cigar, but I'm really enjoying it. All in all, great start to the cigar. I'll probably be back around the halfway point. I'll try to make that second piece relatively quick, since this first part has gotten so long, and then, you know, I'll wrap it up and let you be on your way. So with that said, sit tight. I'll be right back. Well, it's been about 45 minutes. I think it's been about 45 minutes. It's been one episode of Bonanza on Amazon Prime, and plugging right along on my Los Blancos 9, and I've got to say, I'm really enjoying it. I've had a little bit of problems. Generally, when you smoke a cigar, the ash sort of cones a little bit. It's just the way that the cigar works. A lot of times it shows a proper burn. However, in the center of the cone, where the Ligero is, was getting really hard, sort of like charcoal. And what was happening was, it seemed like it was hardening, and there wasn't getting any airflow through it. It was all going around it. The smoke volume was dropping a little bit. The flavor profile was changing up for the worse. And I decided, okay, I'll knock the ash off, and I'm looking at this charcoal looking block of Ligero in the cigar, and you know, if I get rid of this, maybe I can fix the cigar. So I wrapped it on the ashtray a couple of times, and I broke apart that hard piece of what looked like charcoal. I relit the cigar. It started smoking better. A few minutes later, I started getting the same thing. I get this hard, like, charcoal cone on the cigar. I beat it on the ashtray some more, I break it apart, and I relight it, I start smoking again. Well, after the second time I did that, things got better. I'm not developing that hard charcoal-like substance on the end. Sorry for the flashing lights and the booming. We got a thunderstorm rolling through. But I'm really enjoying the flavor profile of the cigar. It's kind of like a toned down Man of War Ruination. Those cigars are really powerful, they're really bold, full flavored. They're just a really enjoyable cigar, as if you smoke them as sort of like a nightcap. They're just tremendously flavored. This one has similar flavor profiles, but it's toned down considerably. Where that one is what I would consider very full, this one is more medium to full. The flavor profile is nice and bold, but again, it's not over the top, it's not overwhelming, and it makes for a really solid medium to full-bodied stick. Aside from the burn problems that I've had, it's smoking well otherwise. You know, when I was able to break apart that charcoal section and smoke through it, you know, the flavor profile came back to where it should have been. It was nice and rich. Really hearty, sort of savory kind of flavor, a little bit of salt on the palate, some pepper through the sinus, pepper and spice, and all in all, just a really solid cigar. The price point of just over $6 for what I would assume is a Toro, I think is fantastic. I'm not a huge Los Blancos guy, but the 9 is hands down my absolute favorite within the line. For the money, you know, $6.50, I think it is a phenomenal buy and well worth it. So if you haven't tried the Los Blancos 9 and this review sounds like something that would appeal to you, you know, medium to full, nice and full flavored, just a good solid meaty sort of cigar, give it a try. I mean, for $6.50, I think it is well worth your time and effort. So that's going to close out the review. Thanks for watching. My apologies for getting kind of blabbermouth here and getting really long, but I want to finish up this cigar before the lights go out for good. They've been flickering quite a bit. So again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Hopefully that will be next week, but we're gonna hope for next week.